Welcome to the Halo Effect, hospitality stories with Ashley and Michael Donald. Hospitality isn't just our profession, it's our passion. With decades of experience and countless stories to share, we've navigated the highs and lows of this dynamic industry, not just as professionals, but as a husband and wife team tackling the challenges of business and life together. This podcast is your invitation to step behind the curtain of the hospitality world. We'll share real experiences, lessons learned, and the moments that have shaped our journey, offering inspiration and insights for anyone walking a similar path. Whether you're just starting out or have years under your belt, we're here to remind you that every challenge is an opportunity and every story has the power to inspire.
Welcome back to The Halo Effect. Today we're delighted to be joined by Alessandra Leoni, Head of Hospitality at Focus on Hospitality, which is part of Focus Group. She's also the co-founder of Next Wave Hospitality. Alessandra brings more than 30 years of hospitality experience across operations, commercial, revenue and technology. Her career has taken her from housekeeping through to senior leadership roles across brands including Resident Hotels, which is now known as the Sirius Hotel Group, and Hilton. And she's also played key roles in major transformation projects from hotel openings and rebrandings to tech stack overhauls and process optimization, all to support growth. We've also had the joy of working with Alessandra for more than 6 years across a range of hotel branding, opening and fractional marketing projects. So it's a real pleasure to have her with us, not only as someone we hugely admire professionally, but someone we've loved working alongside. Alessandra, welcome.
Hi, Alessandra.
Hello, Ashley. Hello, Michael. How are you? Thank you for having me.
No,
You're very welcome.
It's lovely to have it. Alessandra, I know Ash has mentioned it there, but you've built such an interesting career across so many different areas of hospitality. Can you maybe take us through that journey a little bit? What sort of first drew you into this amazing industry?
Well, I didn't choose it. I didn't choose hospitality in a strategic way at the start. I kind of fell into it naturally. I was 17. I wanted to make some pocket money with no experience, no anything. I naturally fell into housekeeping. I was young and strong, so making rooms, that's what my mom taught me. But quickly then, as I was going down through uni, I realized that there is something quite unique about the industry. It's fast-paced, it's human, and no 2 days are ever the same, which keeps me up and keeps me going. And what really drew me into was the energy of it, the constant pace. You are creating experiences in real time and solving problems on the spot, drawing on the experience and the skill set that you build over the years. And working with people from all over the world is a quite diverse industry, and it's somewhere where I grew up quickly, and I continue to grow up every day because you have to, and the challenges is really what hooked me really early on. And then last but not least, the guest interactions.
Yeah.
The stories, the experience, the change I could bring to someone's holiday, someone's the experiences that they want to have. And the team that you can grow and mentor into the next, as my career progress, you can turn and you can build the next leaders into the sector. So that's really something that I'm proud of. I look back at my career and I see individuals that have moved on and they've changed job and they left me for bigger and better things. And I see them today, and it's really quite rewarding.
Oh, definitely. And I think, as you say, just supporting and mentoring and sharing your experiences and seeing, as you say, that next generation of hoteliers flourish. And it's amazing when we chat to many of our friends in hospitality. A lot of us did fall into the industry by accident, with those part-time jobs. And it's so character building. And I think then to be able to make a career, and there's so many diverse options within the industry that you can really kind of propel your career forward.
Yeah, we've mentioned it a few times as well, and not just, and the skills that will prepare you for life as well. I love that you're talking about the skills that you would have learned from your mum, and applying those to hospitality, but and then past that, you still have to make your bed, right? And you still maybe have guests stay over in your house, and it's while you might not be making beds now, you're still making beds probably for someone coming over and staying, and you can
Absolutely.
apply the same level of hospitality to that experience, which just makes you a really good friend as well. So they're just life skills that are just so powerful, and they say so much. We always talked about everything communicates, but if someone puts a little chocolate on your bed when you're staying over at a friend's house, that's a pretty cool thing to be able to do.
There's a lot
those
of
kind of things.
transparency,
Yeah.
absolutely.
So Ali, so you mentioned, so you started in operations, and then you excelled up to sort of that general manager level, moved into commercial revenue, then sort of technology leadership. So, looking back at that journey, what would you say have been some of the defining moments in that?
Oh, Ashley, there have been a few, I have to say. There have been a few because my career has changed over the years, and within hospitality, there is really that opportunity to come from operations and then move across other departments, and
Yeah.
those are careers in itself.
Yeah.
But all these moments, they're all build on each other in a way for me. The first was moving from operation into revenue.
Yeah.
In operation, you're focused on delivery, you make sure everything runs smoothly day to day. But stepping into revenue opened up for me a completely different perspective. I started to understand demand, pricing, distribution, and now decision directly impact profitability. And the shift gave me such a broader view to the business. And the second one was then moving from revenue into the full commercial leadership. As a general manager, I always enjoyed working across different areas. As a GM, you're accountable for them as a whole, but particularly for smaller groups and independents. A place where I could really make a difference. But what became really clear to me was that revenue on its own or operation on its own isn't enough. And to truly drive performance, you need alignment across revenue, sales, marketing,
Yeah.
operations, and everything else,
Yeah.
because everything is extremely interlinked to deliver a journey to the guest. And the better the journey, the better the experience, the better the revenue, the better the demand,
Yeah.
the better the visibility. So those are all very much interlinked, and breaking down those silos and getting teams working together towards the same financial goals, not just revenue growth or overall profitability, was a key step into my journey. And actually, you and I worked together on some projects across
Yeah.
into that manner, and we have seen the direct impact that does to the team when they work towards a common goal.
Yeah.
And then finally, well, I say finally for now, who knows
For
what
now.
tomorrow brings. Let's say the third, probably big moment is understanding the integration within the overall operation of technology, as it has evolved so much over the year. Even as early on as a GM, IT sat into my remit,
Yeah.
because you manage the business and you're dealing with all the technology, whether it is PMS changes, implementing new system, or working with your local MSP in terms of as external providers down
Yeah.
through your connectivity and your network and your comms rooms, etc. So as I moved into the commercial role, that responsibility naturally evolved because of the skill set that I acquired through the journey. And I started bringing IT into the same conversations, revenue, sales, and marketing, because and operation, because they all want better tools, better tech. What about the PMS? And even the technology now does not heavily rely on IT in terms of the PMS needs a server on premises, so you got to carve out the space into the comms room. The cloud advent brought the need for better security, better infrastructure, a better connected infrastructure that can allow those cloud-based systems, whether it
Yeah.
is directly the hotel tech stack or the essential tech, to work seamlessly and better together for every department, whether it is your revenue management system, whether it is your CRM, whether it is a place for your database to sit, etc., down to housekeeping itself. How is housekeeping communicating so the rooms are ready faster to allow the guests to naturally check in rather than parking everyone for a 3 p.m. check-in, and then the front desk has to carry in all of the bags, let the guests get into the rooms as soon as they arrive where possible, and communication with housekeeping where the technology is there to allow the better flow and the optimization allows for this. And that's what really, where things really shifted when all those functions sit around the same table. Everything moves faster, decisions are more aligned, and you remove a lot of the operational friction, and it becomes far more strategic and far more optimized. And looking back, those moments moving into revenue, stepping into commercial, and then more bigger leadership role, and integrating technology into it is really what shaped how I think today.
Yeah.
And what I think it's all about connection and alignment and seeing the business as one ecosystem rather than separate parts.
Love it.
I love the example there with the rooms being ready and everything. It was always the biggest challenge, and sort of on the front desk, you'd have someone arrive to the hotel, before the stated check-in time, which is fine, and you'd say, okay, well, your room isn't ready, but you don't actually know if it's ready or not. It might be,
Exactly.
who knows? But you kind of go with the default. I'm so sorry, your room's not quite ready yet. It'll be ready from 2:00 or 3:00, whatever it might be. The worst was when they came back at 2 or 3 o'clock, and you still don't know if the room is ready. It might be, it might not be ready. You might be able to find a different one, or if you're in a luxury hotel, it has to be a specific room.
And when
And
you
that
look at
challenge, and if you take your eye off how that feels to the customer, to the guest, then it becomes a transactional thing. But if you understand from their perspective, they've done what you've asked them to do. They're checking in from 2:00, from 3:00. They've gone away and come back again. And if you take your eye off that, then it sends a terrible message, especially a first message that you get when you arrive in a hotel.
and it's the impact that it has on the guest and that experience that you're starting to chip at, not in a positive way, but
Yeah.
also on the teams, the stress of having,
Yeah.
1, 2, 3 rooms, then piling up. I came back, my room should be ready. The travel from overseas, so, you don't know what time it is for them in the morning or in the night. And it's a stress for the teams as well. And then the luggage, and you need porters for the luggage.
Yeah.
So at that point, it all goes and grows your overall cost. That all goes
Yeah.
and impact profitability, because at that point, the last thing that you want to do is like, oh, let me give you all your 17 kilos bags to then carry onto your rooms by yourself to a guest. So when we look and we bring all the stakeholders across every part of the operation at the same table, and we make those decisions, have those discussions in terms of what we want the brand to deliver, what are the teams, whether it is front of house, back of house, housekeeping, maintenance, what you set the right expectation and the right goals, then they're all working towards the same target to deliver the end result, which is ultimately the guest experience. And then it comes back full circle into reputation in delivering a more efficient revenue, because when the journey is seamless, the reputation increases. And when you have that stage of delivering amazing guest experience, then you can charge more. There
Yeah.
is a premium for that. And even when when you are in the city center, demand it normally peaks consistently throughout the year. But even in those periods where demand is slightly softer, that visibility driven by reputation ensures that even where it's not peak demand, where you have premium rates, you can secure and dominate the occupancy element, because your demand will always be consistent even where it's a bit softer in
Yeah.
occupancy.
I love that you've really encapsulated how, I suppose, that technology piece is beyond the support function. It's actually driving performance, as you say, across growth, revenue, guest experience, and reputation. Now, have moved from working within a hospitality brand. You've now kind of shifted to work slightly more from a sort of technology perspective, supporting the industry. Can you tell us a little bit more about your new role at Focus on Hospitality? Why it was created, what opportunity that you see with this role?
Well, for me, it's not really a departure from hospitality, it's really an extension of it. When I decided to move to leave my role with resident hotels, it was a decision based on what can I do next
Yeah.
and how can I continue to grow. The team was good, was settled, was the right moment for me really to move on after so many years and the career that I had within resident hotels, many rebrands, many hotels opening, and they moved
Absolutely.
from me from GM into everything else kind. I still see myself as a hotelier first, and this the core of my role at Focus on Hospitality was that I am the hotelier in the room. So there is
Mm.
always a voice in every meeting, in the strategy, and in the decision we make. So I was a customer of Focus,
Yeah.
and when I left, I was asked for feedback as a customer because Focus is such a large company. They operate across many different sectors,
That's
and
right.
they
Yeah.
have a very healthy customer base. They count about 40,000 customers across many different sectors.
Mm.
Hospitality was one where they already had about 200 hotels in the portfolio, and the three of us know very well how hospitality is a different industry.
Yeah.
Is not It operates 24/7. It has a tech stack that is designed to deliver so many different things at once across many different journey, where it is the hotel journey, the guest journey, or the team journey. So it requires a very different and bespoke approach. So I was asked to come on board, considering my skill set, and really build Focus on Hospitality as part of Focus Group in the way
Mm.
that it bridges the gap between the tech people in the room that know the tech quite, well, can I say technically, um,
Yeah, absolutely.
and can say, well, this is not going to work, or actually, this works really well. That's not what hospitality is. That's what the PMS is. That's what the CRM. So the approach is I am the hotelier in the room that can
Mm.
guide some of the solution that we provide, the operational elements that come to effect. A printer is not an issue. Nobody prints anymore. Nobody wants to print anymore. But if a guest come to the desk and say, "Can you print this document for me?" You got to. So
Yeah.
at that point, if the printer fails, it's a P1 because the guest needs it
Mm.
for whichever reason, can say no to a
Yeah.
guest. So it's a fine line where in an office settings or in any other settings, a printer is like, well, I'll fix it, I'll get to it. There are other priorities. So bringing that voice connected together, or the connectivity is down or something else, it affects the guest.
Mm.
So it may hinder them from accessing the room. It may affect not being able to take reservation, not being able to make phone calls. Thus, you can't take reservations anymore, or you can book the restaurant, you cannot book the spa. So everything that affects the being able to deliver services to the guest instantaneously, it's has a direct effect on revenue. So that's why hospitality is different. That's why we create a Focus on Hospitality. We understand what hospitality is, but we're powered by Focus. That's this amazing skill set. I mean, we count about 1,400 team members
Wow.
across many different product pillars. So they are trained, they know the latest technology, and they're learning from other sectors, so they can say, well, actually, since in hospitality this is the process, we are seeing success in this sector, in this element, could it work? And we're doing also a lot of workshops when we are thinking about bringing in a new solution. So we kind of tested it, and we
Yeah.
consult with the hoteliers in the room behind me and a few others like me that have worked in hospitality within
Yes,
focus group.
it's really refreshing, Alessandra. I know I've had plenty of experiences in the past speaking to technology people or opening tickets with technology people, and I would come back and there seems to be a lack of understanding of what my challenges would be as a hotelier,
Absolutely.
and to have that filter. Referring to you as the filter being someone actually already in hospitality who can say, "Nah, that's not going to work. They're not going to listen to that." You're
Exactly.
you're removing a huge step, like a huge a dam, really.
Yeah,
That's stopping the flow of because we're working in hotels. You're so constricted by time. You might get down to
absolutely.
sit at the beginning of the day and answer a few emails, but then if you're having to do that 3 or 4 days in a row just to
But
get your problem across, then that's going to be a really slow way of getting anything done.
it's exactly what you said. And what I do now, the real difference is before I used to support the hotels that I used to work for, where now I can support multiple businesses
Yeah.
rather than just the one or the group of hotels. Personally, for me, it's important that in doing so, I stay close to the industry that I am so passionate about, and I continue those conversations and remain relevant. That's why I spend so much time engaging with hoteliers, even through events, roundtables, or initiatives like Next Wave Hospitality and HOSPA. I've been a member of HOSPA
Yeah.
and the Institute of Hospitality for years, so I deeply love the work that those organizations are doing,
Yeah.
and I want to continue to contribute personally on
Yeah.
a personal level. So if you lose that connection, also you lose perspective of what actually that what works and what doesn't, and what
Yeah.
work is actually meaningful, because we know how it's evolved, how everything has evolved in hospitality and continue to evolve, if anything, at a much accelerated pace.
Well, exactly, and I think to your point around remaining connected with the people, with such a people industry, and with the opportunities and I suppose challenges, and as you say, that acceleration, particularly around technology. So, Ali, from where you sit, what are the biggest technology challenges facing hospitality businesses at the moment?
Oh God, everybody talks about the technology challenges. For me, complexity is probably the bigger one. And don't get me started about data accuracy. There are more systems than ever available. Every system spits out data that we want to act on, but it's so much and it's so complex that. But that's because most of the time they don't connect properly. That creates inefficiencies, duplication in work, and the teams get so much more frustrated, and
Yeah.
consequently the guest. Then you have the cost pressures, which are rising faster than revenue in so many cases. Hotels have been asked to do so much more with so much less. So technology really need to support that, not add to the burden. And finally, there is the challenge for me of keeping the human touch while becoming more digital. Everything is becoming more digital. The guest it first, so that finding the balance between the right tech and the human element is the most complex and critical element at this point.
Yeah, definitely. And do you think that's the biggest opportunity to evolve the way that we kind of adapt and implement technology in our businesses?
Absolutely. The biggest opportunity right now is connecting the dots.
Yeah.
For years, hotelier have invested in multiple systems. There is always, every so many years, there is a new app, a new tool that we didn't use before, so we want to adopt it. Over the years, we went from PMS, CRM, guest feedback tools, revenue platform, and most of them still operate in silos when you look at it,
Yeah,
even
absolutely.
especially in the bigger organization, when transformations take so much longer despite the resources that they may have available compared to an independent hotel. And I've seen it time and time again, teams working really, really hard, putting system in place, but the data then isn't flowing correctly, and the full value of those systems and those transformation isn't realized. um, to me, the shift happens when those systems start to truly talk to one another in a way that is not done just with pure integration and data migrates from one side into the other.
Yeah.
So a full end-to-end connectivity when data flows seamlessly across the business, not across one single department, across the business. Then you move from reacting to anticipating. And you can personalize at that point truly the guest experience in a meaningful way that make for faster, better business decision and build loyalty based on real insight, not just assumption. And there are, over the years, we have made a lot of assumption, and that's where I think the real opportunity begins. The next layer to that for me is automation, not to replace people,
Yeah.
but to remove the manual, repetitive task that slows
Yes.
them down immensely. And when you free people from that, then they can focus on what truly matters, the guest, the experience, the human connection, and those are all the elements that define real hospitality that makes a hotel really successful. And what this ultimately leads to is something that is so much bigger. And what I see, I've been thinking about this a lot because people ask me this question all the time. If I had a magic wand, or
Yeah.
if I could deliver a unicorn, would be a hospitality intelligence ecosystem, where hotels could have this journey from fragmented technology to a connected human-led model, moving away from the hierarchical dependency driven structure. You got your PMS and then everything else comes from it. When everything sits currently in isolation into a kind of more circular ecosystem where integration is the core and is the brain of it. And what you have is still a lot of legacy and scattered
Yeah.
system. You bring into a more structure integrated center and build on solid foundation from security to compliance to resilience, then you can achieve an ecosystem that is designed for data flow freely. And
Yeah.
that's what it's important. It's the data, because that can dictate your decision, support your strategy, so you can deliver across the board to guests, to the teams that you employ, to your stakeholders and your investor. You can deliver those financial results. And even in time of crisis, you can rely on the performance that you have achieved because you know the data is solid and clear. And from there, everything I think connects. Your tech stack, your data, your devices, your revenue
Yeah.
strategy, your marketing, your personalization, your operations. It creates visibility, it creates accountability and real-time insights. And that's when leadership can truly take control for me, making informed decisions quickly, driving performance,
Yeah.
and ultimately delivering that stronger financial outcomes for everyone involved. And that's the shift from
Yeah.
disconnected effort to intelligent, connected
Yeah.
performance.
And
Sorry, can I just ask? You mentioned sort of data accuracy there, and obviously that is it. So it's like it is a building structure of it, and I I often come across errors made right at the beginning. Maybe it's been a booking's been booked by by someone for someone else, and then suddenly the name is attached to the wrong email address, and then there's issues there. And I feel like if it's almost like the building block and foundation. Has this sort of changed in recent years? Is there a way that we can ensure better accuracy, or is there something more we can do with getting that sort of accuracy at an earlier stage right?
The technology is there and is available, but the technology that sits currently in hotels requires investment for
Yeah,
transformation. So, you open a hotel, you opened it 20 years ago, you put in your systems, you put in your infrastructure. And
yeah,
that what that leads to is a commercial strategy that is not very well defined, and you're heavily relying on third parties.
Yeah.
your OTAs, your Booking.com, your Expedia, and we all know what that data looks like. It affects the guest because the guest gives that information to an OTA, and then that information is not fully received by the hotel to deliver what the guest think he has purchased. When the
Yeah.
guests arrive, they bought your hotel. They don't care whether they bought it through a third party or with
Of
you
course not.
directly. But if we can deliver an ecosystem through automation, through better connected data, then there is the guest recognition element that is paramount. So we need to kind of debunk the myth of everything is connected because I got an interface. Let's see what you got. What's your strategy in terms of guest experience that you're trying to achieve? And what resources do you want to have to deliver that experience? If we start from a luxury hotel, there is always so many people per guest ratio.
Yeah.
As you go into other classes of hotels, then you get the other way around. There is so many guests per one person. And what guest wants has also considerably changed.
Yeah.
Some want the luxury service, whilst wanting the automation and me coming into the hotel and not wanting to speak to anyone. I want to know what it is. So the tech has a huge component into the guest journey. And then there is my mother, and I only miss thank God she doesn't speak English, otherwise she'll kill me. But because I always refer to her, she doesn't speak English, and technology for her is she knows how to use video calls because that's how she speaks with the grandkids and me. But if she's got to make a reservation, she'll pick up the phone and she wants to talk to somebody. She wants that to arrive at the hotel and find that person that she spoke to say thank you very much.
Yeah.
Oh, it's so lovely to meet you in person. So there are so many different nuances in terms of guest persona. I mean, when I studied marketing 30 years ago, it was about the personas. So there are so many different ones, and they don't fit in the nice little box that they used to. Technology has made sure that there are countless personas. That's what happened with personalization. You don't have this is corporate, this is leisure. Now there is pleasure and there is staycation. There is so much more, and we have not finished. You don't know what tomorrow will bring. So it all has to be connected. The data needs to flow correctly, and when you give it too much human impact, the human will make an error into the data collection and the data auditing. So that's where technology can support the element. You as a guest can give all the information that you want me to have as a business to deliver that experience. So bringing that information in a way that is clean and clear, because you gave me this data on this day, does I recognize you? How many times you've stayed at a hotel, at one single hotel? Perhaps you go back every year, or you travel for work and you go back every Tuesday. And you walk in and it's like, oh, welcome. Can I have your name? Fine, you give your name. Oh, it's your first time staying with us. Are you checking in? I'm like, get a clue. I got luggage. Of course I'm checking in. So, and then the first thing that we do after asking the obvious question, so you're not recognizing me, can I get your money? What does that to the experience other
so
than
transactional.
welcome back? Oh, I know you must be tired because you got the big luggage, so you're not coming on a short break where your flight was an hour and a half. If you're traveling with massive luggage, you have had a journey, so welcome back. Will you want to have a seat and we can get you checked in the comfort of the seat rather than standing at the desk and me getting the first thing is let me have your money. So what if all those elements were part of the pre-arrival? So when you arrive, it's just about the
That
experience.
personal connection. Yeah, and
Yes.
I love that, as you say, designing the technology aligned to the guest experience and all those different personas and archetypes and all those different needs which are constantly evolving. So as you say, the tech is working hard in the background, and I think I suppose we can't have a tech episode and not mention the AI word, but I think it'll be really interesting. And already we're seeing huge amounts of automation through AI, hyper personalization through the data that AI is then able to feed into various systems. So I think that wonderful vision that you've described in terms of connectivity and everything connected from the full guest journey, I think is such a North Star for the industry to follow as we start to move away from those legacy systems and bring everything together into a connected space. As a evolution from the work that you've done with Focus on Hospitality and the passion that you have for the industry, let's talk Next Wave Hospitality. So over to you. Tell us a little bit about this new platform, a new community, and yeah, why Next Wave Hospitality?
Well, I've always been part of organization. I always tried to contribute, whether it was with my time, with my experiences, because I think I've learned so much for my peers and leaders in the sector as I was building my career, as I was, working, etc. So I always found that these forums allowed for some parts of the conversation. And then you meet people, you go for coffee, you go for drinks, and then you take that relationship, not on a personal level, but on a professional level where you build your network. And there are so many events nowadays, and every year there is a new conference, a new something. But what I feel like is that we get talked at rather than be part of the
Yeah.
conversations. Whether it is great to listen to the experts, but sometimes also the expert needs questions to challenge themselves. And I have spent the past few months, quite a few months in the past year on the road, talking to hospitality leader. And one thing became very, very clear that there is this real appetite for more meaningful conversation, something and then I can go back and really take and think about, and perhaps that's going to work for me too. Or actually, someone that has tested this and it failed, but why does it fail? What did they get wrong? And I find that as a hoteliers, I'm never shy about say, actually, I tried this and this is what it went wrong. So now I've changed my approach because of the lesson that I learned. Why we all got to learn the exact same lessons?
Yeah.
Why can we not benefit from each other's lessons? So you make an error, I make another. That means that we're not making two errors. You make one, I make one. And you
Yeah.
learn from me, I learn from yours. So it will evolve much faster.
We've
So
done some episodes on that, and that's why storytelling is so important.
absolutely.
We would always have. I mean, in the workplace, it would be you tell stories and say, "I remember, I did this. It was the worst mistake I ever made. This was what I learned. Please don't do it again. Please don't you do it." But the same applies for our kids. We want to teach our kids lessons that we that we learned, and if they make the mistake, okay, fair enough, we've maybe
Yes,
failed to tell our story, but at least want them to teach the other kids. Like it's
exactly.
really important. I love that point,
And,
Alessandra.
and as I joined Focus on Hospitality, we started sponsoring events as part
Yeah.
of my new role. And I realized that once you are on the supplier side, it's so difficult to engage in the same way and continue to have those meaningful conversations
Right.
as I had a hotelier. So as a hotelier, I always valued and continue to get great benefits from when hospitality professionals sit around the table and share the stories. And like I said, the successes and the failure as well. And that debate is really, really healthy.
Yeah.
We don't want to be told hat, but we want to be part of the conversation. And that's when we get the bigger benefits. So focus on us. Next Wave Hospitality was born out of that desire. We did a couple of roundtables in Manchester and Edinburgh. And at the end of the day, hoteliers came to us like, when are you doing next one? And because they enjoyed the not presentation, not sales pitches, but honest discussion, because they found those very valuable. The way we're breaking up the panel and then turning to the audience, turn to each other, what do you think about what you just heard, and then bringing it back, that feedback immediately into the panel, it really helped. So, and they're
Yeah.
all honest conversation about what's happening in the industry across many different departments. So, Next Wave Hospitality was created to provide that space, and as a community that is led and built by hospitality professional for hospitality professional, for people that can, a safe space to, where they can share, challenge, and learn from each other. And the forums are much smaller than your typical conference. So, and the partners that support the event, obviously, it will take a bit of money to do this, and the venue and the entertainment, etc. So, but those are very limited to those selected partners that really want and understand the community and want to contribute to that community. Yeah.
Fantastic. Well, I was at the Edinburgh event a couple of months ago, and it felt really different from other events. As you said, you were part of the conversation. The interactivity was so encouraged, and you really got to know all of the people you were sat around. I was having a great conversation with the commercial team from Crieff Hydro, talking about their challenges and their sort of seasonal challenges with being a bit more of a resort. And then we had more city centre Edinburgh properties, and they were talking about the upcoming like tourist tax, and it was really interesting to hear those real life challenges. And actually within that group, people were sharing lovely anecdotes and best practices, and and that was within just a very sort of short space of time, and we've stayed connected since the event. So I think not only were all of the panels and keynotes and insights so helpful, it was also the conversations that happened sort of in the moments in between, which were really important. So I think, yeah, as you say, you've built up an amazing community, and people already asking about what's next. So there is another event on the horizon. So on the 19th of May in London, there's an event. It's from 8:45 till 2:30. So lots of time for sort of breakfast networking and then lunch, and there's a fantastic agenda, as you say, Ali, that takes those real life conversations, a real mixture of panels, insights, and networking. So yeah, we're just putting that together at the moment. I know you've been working hard to pull together an amazing series of panels and supporters and sponsors for the event, and there's been a great response so far, I think, hasn't there?
Yes, we already have quite a lot of registrations from hoteliers on the back of the feedback that we received, and that shows that the need for a real community and a real forum to have this conversation. And we put together, I think, an amazing panel that this one focuses on the hotel journey from designing and building the hotel, and at what point the different teams needs to get involved, whether it is designer, whether it is the technology, whether it is operations. So the day will start with building a hotel and what we need, then moving into supporting the hotel with what's essential and what's not, then moving into security, as well as then demand and revenue and reputation, and how we bring loyalty. So the speakers are amazing. So we will have over 20 speakers on the day, and we got some nice keynote speakers as well. We are going to have Thomas Pugh, the economist, which did the brilliant session last year at Hotspace, and it really made economy nowadays extremely interesting and engaged. So really glad that he accepted our invitation. Then we have another amazing speaker into Ketan Gajar, which is the field CTO from Mimecast, and I've listened to some of his TED talks, and it's an absolute delight to listen to, extremely engaged. And then some of the panelists from you actually moderating one of the session, Jane Penderbury from the CEO from HOSPA. so many names to mention. Harry Fielder, the chair of the Hotel Marketing Association, and so many hoteliers are joining the panels to debate with the experts. So
Yeah.
that's going to be a really, really interesting one
Yeah.
to see the debate between some of the experts and the hotels, and quite a difference in opinions, I think, we'll have in the
Yeah,
rooms.
absolutely. This was some great conversations to look forward to. And this is sort of the first of many events and other, community-led conversations. So this is very much the start of something that's growing and evolving. So we're delighted to be part of this event and the community itself. And we will link up all of the links to attend, information on Focus on Hospitality, and all of the things that we've mentioned today in the show notes. And
And
Alessandra, yeah, sorry.
it has been great for me to find other partners. Obviously, Focus on Hospitality has been driving through me that need to build this community, but also there are other partners that are making these days possible, like Guest Review and Profit Room, Mimecast, and Rocks Networks. We got Revenue also coming down from Ireland to support the
Yes.
day. So, and these are all people that do believe in hospitality and have an operator or where is more commercial background. So they're all people that do understand what hospitality is, what it needs to be, and what we're trying to deliver.
Absolutely, and I think it's just such a great cross section, of different specialisms across the whole guest journey. And I think that was a lovely curation of the agenda, that's just doing it through the lens of the guest journey and having each element sort of focused on and debated. And I'm really looking forward to it. So just as a reminder, that's on the Tuesday, the 19th of May in London, and we'll put all of the links. And we would love to see you there. And if not this event, one of the future events which will be coming out soon. But Alessandra, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank
and it's
you,
just
Alessandra.
wonderful to hear of your career journey, just the passion for the industry which just comes through with every conversation I have with you. We're just delighted to be part of Next Wave Hospitality and continue the work that we do with you. So thank you so much for your time.
Thank you so much both for having me. It's been great talking to you.
Thank you for listening to The Halo Effect, Hospitality Stories with Ashley and Michael Donald. We hope today's episode has offered some insights and encouragement to anyone navigating the world of hospitality or entrepreneurship. We'd love to hear from you. If you have a question, want to suggest a topic, or interested in just joining us as a guest, you'll find our contact details in the show notes. Don't forget to follow, like, or subscribe to The Halo Effect on your favourite podcast platform so you never miss an episode. Until next time, thank you, and we can't wait to welcome you back for more stories and inspiration.